Hey, Govcon Giants family, your host Eric Coffey here, and today we're bringing you another episode of Making a Giant. For all of you who are new to our show and new to our channel, Making a Giant is the podcast that we created in order to help fill a gap in the marketplace. And so many people are saying to us, hey, Eric, listen, I love all the guests, I love their stories, but I don't identify with people with 100 employees or 20 million in revenue or 13 million in revenue. That's not my story. That's not who I am, and that's not where I'm at. And so, can you please bring us on some guests that are regular people, just like myself? Maybe you're one or two people in your organization. Maybe there's 10 of you, but you're just getting started. You're 2 years out the gate, and so you wanted to hear stories from regular people, and that's what we're bringing you in the upcoming episodes of Making a Giant. Today's student guest, Ash, and her story with Marie Martinez, where she sits down and discusses how she first came to learn about Govcon Giants, which for me is remarkable in itself because, like so many people out there, she was hearing the same messages of get your certification, and that's all you needed. And so she thought to herself, coming from some of her previous positions and jobs, that if I just got my certification, then what makes me unique to any and all the people in the government? And so she dug a little bit deeper, found me, and she said the part that triggered it was I was saying, don't get your certification, don't get your certification. And so that's what attracted her to us and GovCon Giants. And from there, she went on to develop her business. She signed up, joined the group, joined the organization, met another fellow student, and from there, her story began. So again, stay tuned for this upcoming episode with Maria Martinez and student Ash on Making a Giant.
So today on this episode of Making a Giant, I kind of want to welcome someone that's super special to us because as soon as she came into the GovCon community, she was ready to go and she did everything that she needed to do to make this happen. And her success came in a very short time compared to a lot of us. And the reason behind it is because she took the steps. She did the actions that gave her the success. So I want to welcome you today, and I want to thank you for being on here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored and humbled by the invitation. So thank you again.
You're welcome. So I just wanted to see where you got started because I think that's very important. But I want to start off, especially with how did you find the GovCon Giants community?
Right, interesting enough, I guess the attraction to the certification, right? Everyone preaches 8A, women-owned business. You have these are the keys to the magic kingdom of money, right? They always present it that way, right?
Yes.
And really what it is it's a shiny object in the room because through these certifications, the first thing they ask you is you have work performance, previous history. Like you can't get certain things unless you prove yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So somehow, some way, a GovCon video pop that says you don't need 8A, don't get 8A, don't do right? So you can just spend almost a year because between you have to prove in your ethnicity and all these things, it's a consuming thing. And if you go down that path of trying to stick to certifications and obtain a certification as your route to success, it's actually a detour, right? So the attraction to that GovCon video where Eric said don't do it, I said, oh, okay, because I'm tired of this, right? Okay, yeah, let me figure out why we shouldn't get the certifications, right? So I watched the video and it was just the same thing I was thinking along the way of why am I doing this if they keep asking me to prove myself, right? So the way I look at certifications now is like it's like a fence, right? They build this fence, and the people that are actually getting the money are the people that dug the tunnel underneath the fence, right? Right. So everyone's getting money underneath, right? And it's a way of keeping you out. And what the real, I guess, description of a certification should be the leverage, not the opportunity it creates, right? It's really the leverage part of it. So to answer the question, I came about it because you guys are the only ones that said you don't need a certification to get started.
You're like, wait, everyone's telling me to, and this guy comes on and says not to do it. It just intrigues you of like, why am I like what? Let's see what he has to say of why I shouldn't do it. And at this point, when you were searching certifications, and I asked this because I came about it as not knowing anything about government contracts. Like I had no idea this existed. Yeah, we saw War Dogs, but it's just another movie. I put it in the back of my head, and I'm like, I just kept going with my life. How did you hear about government contracts?
So interesting enough, I worked in Congress, right? So I had some government, so it was in my orbit, right? It was in my but the contracting itself, I didn't have any idea of how to perform it. And I guess what I've always saw was government contracting going to the large companies, right? Like your Microsofts, right? Those giants of the world was the people that got government contracted. It wasn't the folks that are sitting like you and I on the Zoom call, right? It never was appeared to be that way on on the outskirts. From there, I think that's how it became the intrigue of, okay, the government wants to help you, right? They need small businesses, right? And it's like, oh, they need small businesses. Well, then we define it as a small business. Oh, any business with 500 or fewer employees. It goes, well, how many industries have or employers have, less than 500? I mean, like, if you're talking that as the max to have 500 employees, somebody who has 499 employees, again, that puts me back at, well, that's not for me. That's too big of a stretch to get there. And again, the next thing was now, okay, we're going to make the pool smaller. And then the answer was, right, certification. We make this pool so much smaller, you're now fighting, your competition is this big. So that's kind of how that, like, I guess it all kind of, they feed off each other, right? They kind of like, you have this map, and you have to figure out which road is going to take you to where you need, but you also got to figure out where you fit in at too, right? Like, I check off all these boxes, so that must be the path for me. And I think that's where I think it's a misleading route. I mean, so again, coming across the Govcon Community Giants, there was a real person behind it, right? It wasn't an opportunity to like tell you, yes, certification is the way to go. Give me $20,000 and I'll help you get the certification, right? There was no sell for a certification, right? Just like, don't do it that way. I did it this way. I didn't have anything under, I didn't have any type of association on my name, and this is how I was able to win the contract. To me, that's more attractive than to say, I had this Govcon ticket and I won. Like, I'd rather earn it and then show you, look, this is how I did it.
Okay, yeah. Did you get a certification at the end of it all?
I don't even know.
So you came into this like, I needed a certification. I need the certification. I need to know how to get it. And at the end of the day, till today, you don't have a certification.
I mean, they have beta.sam. You have to like check all the boxes and hit submit. I don't even know if I got to the submit part. I don't even know if I might be in orbit. It might still be in somebody's portal, right? So to answer your question is like, I think they changed it too. I think the women-owned small businesses.
You have to have a third-party certifier now.
Right. No one has time for that right now.
Yeah, because I did it when it was self-certified back like 3 years when I started, and then they changed it, and I never really did the switch because I was like, yeah, I did the SBA self-certified, but did it really help me between then and now? Like, it never really mattered to anybody other than like if I responded to a source that saw it, and it was because of that, but I never saw it flourish from beyond that. So for me, like doing the next steps to certification, the third party and all that, I just didn't see the big value in it because like you said, yeah, it takes you from the 23% pool to a 5% pool, but how many contracts are really in that 5% pool? And then out of those small little contracts, how many contracts are actually for your industry in that 5% pool? So yeah, it's going to narrow it down, but sometimes you get narrowed down to like 0 results.
Right. So now I'm just sitting in this pool, just, floating and kicking my feet, and there's nothing coming, right? But now they took you, like, they took you from this great ocean, right? And they brought you to this little kiddie pool. It's like, I was fine trying to, save my life in the ocean,
I had more chances in the ocean.
Right.
Yeah.
At least a boat would have came by, right? So.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to take it back because I wanted to get that out just because it gives you where you started in this big ocean of government contracting. And before we get to the good parts of the contracts and the amazing, glorious days of staying up late and probably studying and researching and making sense of all these terms and acronyms, I want to go back because I think people's mindset is always a big thing. People know I didn't come from a business mindset. So I wanted to take it back to when you were growing up, to when you were little. And I guess the teacher out of me always likes to ask, what did you want to be when you grew up? Like, let's take it back to when you're 5 years old and they gave you that nice paper with the 3 lines and you have to write, I want to be blah, blah, blah when I grow up.
your class lesson for today. I get it. I get it. So originally when I got the idea that you need a job and a career, right?
Uh-huh.
I always wanted to work for the CIA. Like I always loved the government. Like I always was intrigued by the
Okay.
government. Like born supremacy, all that stuff was always intrigued. But I always had this notion that if you're inside the government, right, you kind of know firsthand what's going to happen if something does go wrong, right?
Okay.
So that's what always had me as I always wanted to be a government worker or at least somewhere associated in some agency, right? But ideally, I wanted to work for the CIA. So when I worked for Congress, what actually happened is I ended up getting my top secret clearance through that route, right? I ended up
Did you
doing
go
engineering.
when did you get a job from Congress? Right after high school? Right after college?
College,
What did you study
right?
in college?
Engineering,
Oh, okay.
right? But don't let that fool you. That means nothing. And
Yeah, I was like, how did you use your engineering in Congress?
But computer engineering, they have to have a technician, right? Because think about cyber threats and stuff like that on the inner offices, right?
Okay, okay.
Systems engineers, right? And so actually what happened with that is that by being in that position in congressional offices, you deal with a lot of constituents, right? So me by my lonesome, I'm only dealing with a computer that doesn't talk back, that doesn't need any help, right? But my colleagues around me, they're always like solving these problems like immigration, federal issues, legislative issues, like you watch the TV. I have friends that are on, my colleagues are on, C-SPAN, talking about the bill that's happening right now. So I said, okay, this computer is not doing anything for me. There's no fulfillment in it. So from there, I started to learn, again, in my surroundings, how I can be more of a benefit to my community by helping constituents. Because again, I was only behind the scenes in the sense of working on the computer, only working with the back offices. So I learned, a few things on the legislative side. I began to learn things how to help my district office, right, with immigration and like those. And I started to go to sleep at night feeling like I contributed to the world more so or less. And in that regard, that's kind of how like it took me away from wanting to be in the CIA because again, it's like it's a self type of you're isolated in those kind of I guess in those careers, right? You have people. It's a very niche community. Only certain people understand it, right? And I kind of realized, that's not the way that I want to go. That's not the way I want to continue life.
Yeah, you have to live a secret life, and you can't
Right,
tell
right.
people what you do, and
Yeah.
like you're gone and things like that. Yeah, that's true. And
Right.
like, how much are you really impacting, like you said, your own community in these secret missions?
Right. Yeah.
How
So
long did you
in the
stay
beginning, it started
working?
self-centered.
How long did you stay in Congress?
Let's see. It was 3 because actually what happened is so I started. I believe it was 2010, 2011, and then my member retired. Right. He was in office for 30 years, and he ended up retiring. Right. Like 3 years into my career. My longevity career was going to happen, right? So when he retired, it was a pivot into the private sector, right? In the private sector, you kind of start to introduce to things outside of just helping the folks that you were hired to help in as far as your constituency. So I got introduced to a different kind of audience when I went to the private sector. So that's some clear indication of the background, and that's the present day, right?
And so after you left Congress, where was your mindset then? You still wanted to help people, and that's what I'm trying to understand. Like, I'm here trying to help people, and then how do I end up wanting to learn about government contracts?
COVID, right? Because the private sector had a hesitation of what they don't know what to do next. But I know the one purse that wasn't going to close, right? Their credit card wasn't going to stop swiping, right? Right. There was never going to be a cash flow issues with the government, right? So that's where it became the certification, right? The certification came back up between the government, right?
Okay.
So,
Okay.
I mean, if I'm painting the picture now, right? Now that's how we get into 2021.
Yeah.
But and I think I joined right in the summer of 2020, right? So the private sector again was hesitant from like that March to like summer.
Yeah, because March of 2020, I got on a flight. I was coming back from DC, and that's when things were getting a little like, okay, we're hearing more about this. And when I got home, March of 2020 is when every little thing started shutting down, and people were like not working and things like that. And it's true, a lot of the private sectors, even a lot of our family members, like we were at home, like everybody was at home, and people, and somebody asked me that the other day. They're like, how did COVID affect you? I'm like, I was the busiest during COVID. I was like,
Right,
I was like, we were on 16-hour conference calls and conference
right,
calls with
right,
this supplier and trying to get this for this agency, and I had 2 projects going on. So COVID didn't affect me. But then again, I tell them after I reflect on it, it's like, it's because I do government stuff. Like, the government doesn't close. The government still needs to get buildings
right,
done. Government still needs to feed the prisoners. Government still needs to like do all these things. So that's the reason like I never stopped. So I get where you're going. Like when COVID happened, all these private sectors were like not sure what was happening next. But like you said,
right,
the one person, because you were right in the middle of it, that was not going to stop, because they can't stop, is
right,
the
right.
government. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but still,
So
even
that's the
then,
aha moment. Yeah.
yeah, there's your, yeah. But even then, like government contracting, did you, when you started like playing around with this idea, did you feel like it was something like actual possible? Or did you think it was just going to be far
Yeah,
fetched?
it was still a far fetched thing because at the time when everyone was getting on the news, it was we need help with ventilators, we need help with masks, we need help with this, right? And at the opportunity, they were like playing on so much red tape where it wasn't as strict as it would have normally been on your first introduction of government contracting,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the whole plea of anyone can do anything, we will take it, right? Like,
Oh.
you know. So I mean, I didn't go look up to see how I could sell gloves, but if you go look up to see how to sell gloves, it's like a rabbit hole, right? You go from
Mm.
gloves to socks to they need t-shirts. Oh no, they need sinks, right? Like it takes you data
That's
Sam will take you
true.
down,
That
right?
is very true, because you put in something and then you're like, wait, like we said it once in our Facebook community a long time ago when I first started. What was the weirdest thing we've seen listed on Beta Sam? Like people said 5,000 pounds of French fries, and we
Right. No,
laughed.
it's no question, but I can do it, right?
Yeah, it's like French fries. We're like, huh, French. So there are. It takes you down, like you said, sinks and flooring and lighting,
Yeah,
and learn how to. I've seen chaplains on there and leasing
right.
offices and things like that. So when it took you down this rabbit hole, what what did you think?
It went back to, well, I wonder if I could buy something for me, right? And then, like I said, I don't think you focus on the one thing that this is the one thing that if you happen to be lucky enough to have this niche or this industry or you do this kind of circular product, then it works for you. Like literally, go on there, pick something, and figure it out, right? And I'm not trying to be funny but that literally can be the case, right? Like I went to go see what they were talking about gloves and masks and ventilators, and out of the blue, I found a sink. Like I don't know anything about sinks, but somehow maybe I could find somebody that knows somebody that can make this work, right? But again, the opportunities are there. I think that the government doesn't do a great job at letting you know that they're there, right? So when
Oh,
you get into so when you get in the room, it's like you have this. I mean, literally, it's like the Matrix, right? There's like so many things going, like, right? And it's just like, wow, I wish somebody would tell me which way or how do I, and that's where it becomes, then you start pulling off and doing your own research, right? Because now you leave the beta SAM window up, right? Then you go, oh, DUNS number. Then you go, all right, well, how do I start getting a DUNS number, right? So you see the things that come up that are frequent, DUNS number, you need a CAPE statement, right? You start putting those things together. But then you come across something like a Govcon giant who says, we have step 1 through step 2, step 10, right? If you do it this way, you'll be fine. So it's like, okay, it's a silver platter kind of situation, right? If I don't have to sit here, because I think what people need to realize right now is that you you don't want to take a year trying to figure it out, right? Because if you do it alone, that's what's going to happen, right? If you don't find a good resource, good community, and a good, I guess, system, right? And when I say system, you got to realize it just can't work for that one person, or it happen to work for somebody else, right? The GovCon Giants doesn't only work for Eric, right? It doesn't only happen to happen work for you, right? When you see that it's working for this one, that one, in so many
mm,
different industries, so many different sectors, right? There's not, oh, only construction, only pharmaceuticals, only, medical facilities. Like, then that says it works. You supply what they're saying to your niche or to your industry or to your product or service and say, okay, this is how I do it. Insert, right? You go, it says right, insert here. You literally put self, right? Make it very easy. Like, don't, make it very easy. And I think that's what, I think people would rather much, and this is why I like to say lucky, right? Because people go, people would rather believe in the stroke of luck or a chance at luck, like the lottery, right? As opposed to saying I simply just did this, right? They believe
Mm.
that the luck is a better route to go because if they can get lucky too, it can happen for them. Like when Eric said, pick up the phone and call them, right? As simple as that is, people will figure out every reason why not to call, right? But if I say, you won't believe it, I got so lucky. Well, what did you do? I picked up the phone and the guy answered. Really? I'm gonna go pick up the phone. Right now, their thing is that if I pick up the phone and call and I get lucky too, that's my answer to being, the problem. That's problem solved. That this person
Mm-hmm.
answers the phone, as opposed to saying simply just pick up the phone. The simple part is people don't want to believe in the simple, right? Because it's too good to be true, right?
Yeah.
So that's the part I like, and that's what kept attracting me and attracting me to it. All right, this person won and they did this. This person won and did that. But this, and that's why okay, I don't have to spend a year trying to figure it out, right? And that's one thing. Equality is in time, right? Everyone gets 24 hours in a day. It doesn't matter who you are, how much money you have. We all get the same amount of 24 hours. If I could figure out a way to keep part of my 24 hours to myself, right? I'm all on board.
Yeah, it's very true. This 24 hours, sometimes they go too fast and you're like, okay, I
Right,
have if I want to extend my 24 hours in my head, it's my awake moments. Like I have to be awake an
right,
hour before to extend my day that I'm actually awake and focused. So when
right,
you started with GovCon, and they started telling you all these steps, did you find it
right.
easy or difficult?
So I guess in my okay, so for my approach, right now, I don't want to make
Hmm.
it about me because I really want to present that anyone can do this, right? But it was a matter of listening, right? You went in there and I listened, right? And I sat on the calls and listened, right? The one thing that I've always heard about was Don's number, capability statement. I'm like, okay, this is
Okay.
not going anywhere, right? That's going to be the basis for anything that I do going forward. Don's number and the capability statement, right? And then on top of that, there were members in the community that kept saying, anybody that needs help with their cape statement, send it to me and I'll review it, right? So I took advantage of those opportunities, right? If they volunteered, I was on board because you know what? If anyone's as busy as everyone is in their success, if they're taking the time out to offer you their time, again, I respect everyone's time. It's very valuable. I'm going to take advantage of that because now I'm saying these seasoned eyes are offering me the opportunity, welcoming me into it and saying, all right, you need help. I will help you with your capability statement, right? Because their capability statement is winning, so they know what
Mm.
needs to be in the capability statement, right? So my ding ding moment, right, it's like, okay, I have a cape statement. It's never been to anyone else outside of, the Govcon community. Oh no, it's never been to anyone outside of my computer, right? It's
Yeah.
never left my computer, right? So now here's an opportunity for someone to say, I will review it for you, right? Because my personal friends don't want to hear about a capability statement, right? They don't
They don't even
give
know
a
what it
damn about that.
is.
Right, right. They just, oh yeah, it looks nice, looks good. But they don't know what they're
Yeah.
looking for, right? They just say, oh, looks
Yeah.
good. It's grammatically correct. That's the
Yes.
information you give me, right? So again, things like that. So I sat in those Zoom calls. I knew that I had to get that. Those basic things. Step one, step two, right? And then step two, now that I got through step two of Dunn's number capability statement, then it was to the course itself. I went through the course, picked up the nuggets, learned it. And I kept saying, okay, I got to pick my head up from the situation. I can't keep having my head down in these books because I need to go test this out. I need to put this into practice. Like I've seen enough. Like Eric has so many videos. I'm like, okay, I can't learn by keep watching these videos, right? There's only so much this video is going to produce for me. It's not gonna. I can watch the video, but it's not making me, right?
And that's what I tell a lot of people because a lot of people's like, no, I need to know everything. I'm like, there's no way you're going to know everything. And if you keep having that mentality of, I need to know it, I need to know it, I need to make sure, I'm like, you're never going to do anything because you're always going to
right,
find that space somewhere that's going to say,
right,
oh, you don't know it yet. You can't do it. But then it's going to keep
right,
you from actually doing the actions, and that's what's going to
absolutely,
help you get there. It's like you said, you can't be putting your head down in front of a computer and listening and
right,
listening because it's not really doing anything for you except time goes by.
right. And you're a teacher, right? Could you imagine when you're on the blackboard, solving a problem with someone? If I had my head down in the book, I'm gonna miss everything you just showed on how to do the
uh
example, right?
I teach
Because I'm looking
kindergarten.
down.
They don't pay attention all the time, and then they're like, what are we doing?
Right, right. Because they have like they was, somewhere like So and so for me, the next step was all right. I learned enough that I now want to put into practice, right? So I wanted to shadow my next step was to shadow somebody, right? I kept saying, okay, I'm going to shadow someone because I want to see how it's done, from theory to practice,
Mm.
right? It was that was a step for me, and I knew that again, valuing everyone's time. I knew that I had to come. I had to be. I wanted to present the best me, right? So, in order for me to be attracted to a contracting officer or anyone that's having a decision, if I can't be attracted to amongst my peers, right? If I can't
Mm.
have anyone agree to let me, tag along or see how it's done in real life, then I had a little bit more work to do, right? So in that, I think on the Zoom calls and on the emails, Eric always said, send to Maria, like STM, send to Maria, right? So I'm like, okay, either Maria's like the human resource officer or like, the guidance counselor, right? If we're going in a school setting, right? I said, okay, I need to reach out to her. But I wanted to make sure I reached out to you. And again, didn't waste your time, right? I knew I needed to have the right questions to ask you. So I know that when I did ask you, it was okay. It wasn't a girl that's on chapter one, verse, chapter one, section one.
You didn't come
Right?
saying asking what's a DUNS number.
Right. I said, okay. I knew if I looked for something, I didn't find it. I had to do work myself. I had to do work on my own. I did not find it. I felt confident enough to say, okay, now it's time for me to go ask the question, right?
Hmm.
And in that, I still didn't even realize that where your story got started, right? Because it was just like since Maria. So I'm like, okay, this, I didn't realize Maria started off, that didn't, right? And I think going back to YouTube algorithms, right? There's another Govcon member in the group, Randy Ward, right? He started referencing her, Randy Ward, Randy Ward. She's like, and I kept saying, all right, she's in the winner circle. Like I kept hearing her name, she's in the winner circle. And then by some type of algorithm that YouTube popped up, it showed Randy's first video, her first question. So okay, this is real. She started there was some point along her journey, she started off calling in and asking a question, and now look where she is, right? So again, the system is working because she called in, she got her question asked, she took that, did what she needed to do, and now look where she is, right? So I knew that my question had to be worth value to say, okay, Maria, this is where I need help with. Can you let me know what I should do to get out of this? How? And once I made that connection, then it went from okay, you put me with this person and said reach out to this person. You didn't do like the scheduling of anything. You just said, all right, here it is. Do what you need to do with it, right?
Hmm.
And again, that's how I said, all right, the motivation is all right. This is the person I need to reach out to. Let me go brush myself up, because if this person agrees to talk to me, right? Again, I need to know this person is a one-shot deal, right? My first impression is everything, right? I knew I had to tell them everything that I can do, what I would like to do, and where I want to be, right? Because you can't oversell yourself, right? Because that one opportunity you have where that person remembers you and what you say that you can do, and they call you up and they call you out on it, you don't want to mess up your relationship with them, right? So be honest in that regard when you reach out to somebody, right? Like don't
Yeah,
make
and
it
if
seem
you
like
come out
situation.
appearing that you know everything, then they're gonna be like, okay, what do you need me for? You know how to do this.
Right.
Just
Right. Right. So and that's what I said. I knew from there. I just wanted to be attracted to my peers and the person that or at least who you said, all right, based on what you just said, especially what you asked, this seems like a good fit for you, right? And I knew that again, you took the time to make that connection and tell me where to go. I wasn't going to go try to do something different or try to do it my way. It was simply he told me to do it this way and do it that way. And again, the proven system, right?
yeah, and that's true because you have people like me. I do construction. Randy does consulting, and then Miguel did IT, and this person does oil and gas, and that person, Mebs does clay shooting targets, and it works. But we all
Right.
use those same methods. Like we all
Right.
have different industries, sell different things or services, but we all do the same process. It's the same
Right.
process. We just
Right.
follow it. I think that's the
Right.
biggest difference is people like you came in and within like a few months you felt ready enough to go on to the next step. And like you said, you came across, I'm like, okay, the next step is I need to talk to people that have been successful and let me see what
Right.
they did and how they did it and take something from them. And then you said, let me go shadow someone. That means that
Right.
I'm actually going to get out there, see what they're doing so I could then
Right.
model and copy and do exactly what they did. It's not like I'm just going to sit here and figure it out on my own. And a lot of people get stuck in that. And like I'm going to try to figure it out on my own. And no, I'm going to do it my way. I know you're telling me to do it this way, but I'm going to do it this way just cuz I
Right.
think it will work better for me. And I think that's
Right.
very important, especially in learning something new, learning something that it's not in our comfort zone or it was never in our atmosphere to begin with.
Hmm.
Because when we
Right.
learn new things, it's just like it could be very confusing. But like you said, if you
Absolutely.
find the right mentor, if you find the right program for you, it's what's going to
Mhm.
make it the journey a little bit smoother.
Right. No, absolutely, and I agree. And that brings me back to a song like I think Jay Z's Blueprint. I don't know if you ever heard the Izzo song, right?
Uh
Where
huh.
he says, like where Eric. I think the biggest thing that one of the biggest of the videos that I learned the most from is the ones where he says, "This is the mistakes that I made," right? Where he said, "These are the mistakes I made," right? So he's like, he's like showing you. I think the verse goes something like, you act like I told you to do that. No, I did it, so you don't have to go through that, right? Right?
Uh,
So when he showed the video where he misspelled, the person's name wrong, the one thing I do now when I write, I make sure my name is spelled right. So essentially, sorry, essentially, those are the things. Like I said, he saved you so much time by saying, "Don't do it this way because I did it. It didn't work. Do it this way because it does work." Right? And again, it's not limited to what you do.
don't limit yourself.
Yeah, don't limit yourself. Especially again, the things that he says don't do, take that advice because those are the want to be the one. Because when you see it, the mistakes that he's made, and it's a natural mistake, right? It's easy for you to pick it up to make sure that you don't carry it along with you, right? So you see by him saying, he made a mistake doing this and that, and it took him 3 months to get it correct, right? Now you save yourself that time. You can take from that and accelerate, your career, or your journey in that regards.
Yeah, because he said when he first started this and started like into government contracting, nobody will tell him anything. It was like the biggest secret and no one would help him. So he went and did it. So he's like, take those 2 years, too few years that he took trying to understand it, trying to put it all together
Right,
for us not to have to go through it. He says it. And
right.
so
That's a
it's
Jay Z
laid
song.
out for us. It's just you
Right,
have to have the confidence in order to do it now. So when
right.
did you feel confident enough to do it? To step out from shadowing people? When did you feel like you said you wanted to be attractive to your peers? When did you feel
So in
ready?
in that moment, I knew that I had the reviews for my capability statement, right? I knew that was solid, right? Because everyone gave me their feedback, and it was kind of the consensus, right? It wasn't too many different opinions. It was just a consensus of what was right. So I left what was it right and took out what had no feedback on it. So from there, it was the confidence came in the fact that I no longer had questions, right? In a sense of step two, right? I got through step one. I didn't have any questions. Next thing was like, all right, let's take it to step two. Now that I'm at step two, it's like an interaction with a real human, right? It's no more just me, my course, and Eric's YouTube videos, right? Now I gotta perform, right? Because now the real person's depending on me to, speak up, show out, and produce, right? It's no more, it's no more self-centered progress, right? Now that I got someone else involved, right, which was the goal, right? I can't revert back and mess up now, right? That's not what you want to do. So it's prime time, right? That's a situation where now, okay, I said, hey, I think I found one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can we do this together so I can get a feel for it? Like I think this lines up perfectly. I think let's go for it. So the
So
person
you
that
still did you still teamed up with somebody that had a little bit more experience, a little bit more practice on this. You didn't go on it solo.
no, no, I didn't because again, the step two for me was responding to technical capability, and all
Mm-hmm.
that's there. It's all there. It's all there in the program, the course. But again, it's great when you see it, but and I think the one of the biggest thing about government contracting is it's such a big universe, right? So you have room to mess up, right? You can like if anything, practice on an agency that you have no interest in, right? Because they would never ever communicate with the other agencies. Hey, do not hire that person because you know what, right? Only time you get to that level is during when you actually win the contract and they evaluate you on your C parts, right?
Yeah.
Like your report card when you
Yeah.
perform. Up until that point, they have no interest in remembering who you are, right? So you can truly practice, and do it and perform it. It won't hurt you one bit. Like I promise you that. That I promise you, right? You can go through 100 contracting officers, pick up the phone, talk to 100 people, and those 100 people will never talk to people that you really want to work with. So that's something that I didn't know at first, but once I started watching the videos, understanding like the agency list and how to get to all those little things that aren't necessarily public, right? Because there's not a forecast or anything like that. They don't tell you about those things, right? You have to learn how to get to that stuff, right? So the next thing for me was, okay, this looks great. It looks within reach, right? Let me take a shot at it because the only thing that's worse that can happen is I don't get it. But it's no big deal because, right? I put this as part of my course to put the time in to see if it works. Right now, I'm taking the theory and putting it into practice. So it never is a loss, right? Because you're doing what you're supposed to do, right? And if it didn't work, I'm learning from the situation, right? So that was essentially how my first contract came to be, right? I said, okay, everything that I learned up until Module 2, right? I want to apply it, right? And I talked to the person that was mentoring or a partner with, and I said, hey, this is everything that I can do in regards to this, but I don't know how to essentially I don't know how to format it or the 1449. Let me go back. The problem was it was due in 2 days, right? Right. So when I saw it, because I knew it was due in 2 days, right? We put something together, and I said, okay, that's the only part I don't know how to do. I said, I don't mind going to learn it. But because we only have 48 hours, can you just do it? I look it over and understand how it worked because that was going to be too time consuming. Because if I had to go back to the books, right, put my head back down, we're going to miss out on an opportunity. So we kind of match up with our strengths, right? This is where she was strong at. This is where I was strong at. Put it together, hit the email, send it off, right? Respond to the solicitation.
How did you feel when you sent it off?
I felt relief because it came together in 48 hours, right?
Yeah.
Right, but there was no pressure to win it because again, it was just a test of the water.
For you, right? It was just a test. It was just Eric calls those experiments. He's like, just think of it as an experiment, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, you know what? It's just an experiment. You just gotta try. So you gotta make some tweaks and try it again.
So if you want to label it, that was my experiment, right? That was my experiment contract, right? So it all came together. The package went out, and I think maybe 2 weeks later, I got the response back. Hey, congratulations! You've been awarded.
Oh, how did you feel with that?
Oh yeah, let's go to chapter 3 because now that I know how to, I'm good, right? I know how to do this thing. Right?
Now you want to.
I think short notice.
And the thing is, the short notice. Like I'm that type of person. Like you give me a little bit of time, it's gonna get done. If you give me a whole month, I'm gonna wait till the last week to get it done because I work so much better under pressure. Like I don't have time to think and overthink and analyze. I just know I have to get it done and get it out, and then I could breathe again. But now that you got 2 weeks later, you have a contract, and I tell people winning it is not the hardest part of this process. When you get that email or that phone call that you won the contract, it doesn't stop there. It's not you just go do and get paid. There's a whole lot of stuff in the middle. There's a lot of different things that go into it. From the time you get that email to the last day to invoicing, certified payroll, and all that stuff. So like you said, now you're on to chapter 3.
Right. But again, anyone can do it, right? Because of the system, but really being involved in it is a much different than, again, because on the course you hit reset if you get it wrong, right? Hit the reset button, right? Like, oh, I didn't get the answer right? Okay, let me hit reset and try again, right? So when you, like I said, the hardest part is not getting it. It's actually the performance and all those in between steps, right? Until it finally hits your bank account with that, that deposit. So I completely agree with you on that statement that, celebrate the win, right? You should celebrate the win.
Oh,
Definitely celebrate the win. Right?
definitely,
Take the moment and
definitely.
celebrate the win, right? But gear up, because to get paid is really when you want to, like, that's when it's like, okay, glad that's over, right? Because
Hmm.
where's the next one, right? Because that's where the adrenaline comes in, right? Because you know that you're capable of winning, right? So that feels good, right?
Okay.
You know that somebody somewhere along these lines are agreeing with what you're doing, right?
Yes.
I think that's enough confidence to take you into the project itself. You come out the project with the raving reviews. The next thing is like, all right, now I can take this. Now you know what this is called. No longer experiment. It's called past performance now, right? Because I've now
Ah.
graduated from an experiment to a past performance. Tuck that under my belt because I had to take this past performance and leverage it to get me to the next bigger contract.
Hmm.
So, I just
So
love that
from
stuff so
the
much.
time that you started YouTubing, and then into
Mm-hmm.
the course, how long did it take between that and the congratulation email?
Okay, so I said I started in like the summertime, like it had to be like August, right? Because June,
Okay.
July, like late, like oh, you know what? If you really want to narrow it down, is when you guys had that specials, like the
Eric's
live contract
birthday.
instead
That
of
it was
monthly.
August
Okay,
20,
so then
August
right,
28th was the last day because it was
so we
Eric's
got the
birthday.
contract in September, right? So we got the contract in September, right? September,
What?
end of September, right? End of September before October, yeah,
Before
yeah,
your
September.
refund policy was even up, 30 days.
Right, so look, I can't even say it, right? There's nothing I can say, right? So
Wow.
yeah,
Like you
yeah.
came to really get this going. And
Oh no,
I
no,
think it
I wasn't no games.
yeah, and that's the mentality a lot of us people have. We have to have it. Because we don't come in with like it's no games, I'm going to get this done. Like you are proof of how quickly it could happen. Mind you, you did do it at the end of the fiscal year, and that has a little bit to do with it. But
Right,
it's
right,
everything aligned, all this everything aligned. You were mentally prepared. You went into it gun ho, and you tried it out,
right,
and
right.
you got a contract.
Yeah,
And that
and
must
that
have
was the
felt
goal, right?
like,
Like it
yeah.
wasn't because here's the thing.
Go
Because
ahead.
for me, and this is me personally, it's if you separate me from my money, that's a big deal to me, right? Like, you
Mm,
know, my money, I invested money into this. I had to see my return on investment, right? If we want to be entrepreneurs and talk business right now, I'm talking real. Like, I made an investment into the system, this program. It wasn't going to pay me out, right? Then what was the point? Now, my story is I invested. I got I think six, was it? I guess 10 times
Six.
more. When I do the math on it. But essentially, I knew that that's what you do when you're in, like, if you truly have an entrepreneurial spirit, right? Is to go make that investment, come back out and say, look how much profit I made, right? And that's what I knew that had to happen, right? I knew I couldn't just say, I gave this money, I'll get to when I can. That
Yeah.
wasn't never my intention.
Okay. And that's a good intention. Some people don't, not all people that come in have that intention. But when you have it, you see the
I'm a window
results.
shopper, right? I'm not a window shopper, right? I did not come in to browse. I did not come to see, can I, like that
Like,
wasn't my intention. Like, that wasn't the goal. The goal was the system says government contracting, how to win. That's what had to happen at the end of the day.
when you won this in September, when did you perform it?
Oh, that's so along the lines, right? I think we got everything that we needed to do for the contract, right? Everything was lined up. So in the contract itself, it said that we had to have everything done by November 30th, right? We
Mm-hmm.
had to be completed by November 30th. There was a couple of hiccups on the project itself, right? And it got extended out into, I want to say, so yeah, it was that. So it was the actual contract was November 30th, right? We had to get it. So the hiccup happened in November. Then the officer went on vacation for like the December, the Christmas time
The
period, right?
holidays. Okay.
Holidays, right? So now we're into 2021 now, right? There's a capital insurrection, right?
A lot of us
In
saw
DC, because the South had to
it.
be formed in DC, right? I don't know if you guys saw it, but that happened. So it was like, okay, well, we can't perform. Then I think 2 weeks later, there was a snowstorm, right? So the contract actually got performed.
How do you keep your
What is this, March?
positive mindset of this is meant to be? Because this is a good time that people are like, oh my God, I should have not done this. Like, what am I thinking? Like, you have that entrepreneur
No.
mindset that what's going to get done is going to get done.
No, that just means that I have now. That's on the shelf, right? Like if there's an insurrection, okay, now I don't have to give them my 8 hours. I'm putting 8 hours somewhere else, right? So it's not like it's not so much a setback. It's just like, okay, that's what came. I'm gonna deal with it. But now I don't have to be in that moment. I can now take myself into something. I can now go read another solicitation, right? Like that. You don't stop because something is not moving along, right? That's you again, 24 hours a day. You got to figure out how to make it work for you.
Okay. So when did you guys finally perform and finish?
Yeah, I think March. It was March. Yeah,
March?
everything. Yeah. So we probably got paid in March, but it was probably completed at the end of February instead of March.
And the point I want to make is that people think you get a contract, you do it, you're done, in and out, you're done. People don't hear the stories of the in between of snowstorms and insurrections and this thing and that and people going on vacation. Like there's life.
That's not in the course, right?
Yeah,
Like,
there's
so
life life happens in between to you, to others, to a country,
right.
and you just have to go with it. And like you said, instead of putting all your mind into why is this happening, like this is like, oh, now this happens, you took the time and you started, oh, I got a contract, I know I could do it, so you went and started looking at something else.
So I took the time that she said, okay, put it on the shelf, because I'm somewhere in Waikiki, on the beach in the island somewhere, right? Do your thing, But now you gave me my time back, right? And I'm gonna do something with it.
Mm.
So,
Now, what did you do with that time?
I found another solicitation in the contract to look into, right? You know.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we got a partner with the Govcon member, and we got that contract. So then we built that relationship, and now I said, okay, here's another one. So what we did was create a target list, right? We said, okay, let's look at these solicitations and see how they fit into us, right? So we went back and forth and goes, okay, like a go no go for us, like an internal go no go, right? And I think what was funny was one of the solicitations was on our target list, and then one of the members in GovCon posted it too as a community thing, like saying, hey, I came across this. Doesn't someone do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you see what I'm saying? Like, even though that person doesn't do anything that has to relate to that industry, they saw it, posted it, and came across. So I said, okay, if he found it, right, and he has nothing to do with this industry, if he found it, I said, oh, it must be a big ticket item, right?
Somebody's talking about it.
Right. So I said, okay. So I said, all right, let's go for it. I looked at it. We looked at it. It's on our goal list. All right, we're gonna go do it. Right. So we respond to that contract, the solicitation. Sorry, we respond to that solicitation. I think this time we had maybe 2 weeks to respond to it, right?
Okay,
now, right?
more than 48
better,
hours.
Right? We're getting better, right? We're getting better at it. And again, we went in there, and this one, it was a much larger contract, right? Much larger. But I saw the value in the performance, right? If we get this contract, it's going to leverage us to a larger value, because one of the things that in the solicitation they go, have you worked on a project of this magnitude, right? They always kind of
yeah, it's like, do you have a project with the size and magnitude and the scope of this project that's relevant to it?
Right. So now my investment became in, okay, we're not gonna work for free, right? Like you always say, don't work for free. We don't volunteer, right?
We didn't come into this to volunteer.
Right. I can volunteer my time other places, and I'll have much more. I guess I guess it'll be more fulfilling than me giving the government my time and money, right?
Yeah.
So we did that. I said, all right, our focus shouldn't be on the profit on this project. It should be winning this contract, because this is going to be a good sizable contract for us to take, put in our cap statement, right, as a past performance, and then go from there to leverage it to another large contract.
Yes.
So we did that. We got our numbers down, right, and we responded accordingly with that in mind. Okay, we're going to be super competitive on this one. We're definitely going to have our room for profit, but our competitiveness should be in the fact that we want to win it so we can take it and go elsewhere with it. So This one took a little longer for them to respond to because I guess there was a lot of competition or it was a lot of responses to it. But then we got an email back, right, saying that they overlooked something. Can they be update our price, right? Like, oh heck no, right? Because of the fact that it was such a large packet to put together. I mean, this Excel
Oh.
spreadsheet had maybe like 4,000 lines, right? And I think when we were doing the pricing on it, Excel kept rounding it to the nearest to a tenth of a dollar. So it was the Excel spreadsheet took way longer, right? So it took me like 3 hours to get the Excel spreadsheet down, right, updating this the oversight that they had, right? So I finally got the Excel spreadsheet perfect. Everything was nice lined up. Submitted it in, and you know, you know, the moral of the story is we won that contract too, right? So I was upset about doing it, but then I looked at the time, right? Time and value. I said, all right,
Uh-huh.
I put the 3 hours in, and it came out what? It was a $300,000 plus contract, right? So I looked at it that way. $100,000 per hour. I don't mind doing
Oof.
4,000. I don't
Oh,
mind,
wow.
right?
Yeah, I
Because
would.
now it made sense,
I don't even like
right?
Excel, and I wouldn't mind that either.
Right? Now
Oh,
it makes sense for me to sit down and do this for 3 hours, right? So to answer, that's how it came about, right? It made sense for me to do it that way, right?
how
To
did
focus
you
that say,
feel when you got that?
again, I don't mind doing Excel spreadsheets for 3 hours, right? Trying to figure out where this decimal point is all that, right? Because at the end of the day, like I said, I made $100,000 for 3 hours worth of work in that conversation. That's how it came to be. So, and that was
So,
recently. So,
within in less than a year, you've gotten two contracts.
all right,
You and all in less than a year got two contracts. One was a smaller one, and then you took that small one, leveraged it, and got one probably two, three times as more than the first one.
that's what happened, right? But
So it,
internally, right?
uh-huh.
Like that's but between the member, like the person I partnered with, right? It was the growth, right? To see where we started and where we are, right? Based off the fact that I had to pick my head up off the course, right, and just say this is what I want to do, right?
Yeah, and it's just and the biggest thing that I think people have to take away from it is that you didn't do it alone. That you came in with the
Right. No.
right mindset and you knew that the best approach was teaming with someone that already had gone through a little bit of something and that was successful, and that if you network and team up with the right person and you found your strengths and you knew what your weaknesses are and you knew that this person complemented that. Your strength was her
Right.
weakness and her weakness was your strength. And together you guys have just taken and ran with it.
Right. Right. And again, anyone can. It doesn't have to be. You know. Again, yes, I did partner with someone. Yes, I teamed up, but that was the route that I took, right? And I think that it's important to see that it can be done and anyone can do it, right? It doesn't always have to be like present yourself to someone. Be honest. You have to be honest with what you can and can't do, right? Because, like you said, winning the contract is not the hard part. It's performing it so you can get paid, right?
Yeah.
That's the real, right? That's the thing where you check out at, So
Oh my God, that is awesome. So you got your return on investment, you met your goal twice, and you have been with us for less than a year. So, with
yeah,
everything that you've experienced in the last few months, from searching for what certifications were, to doing the
right.
course, to finding the right team partner, to putting proposals together and everything else, what advice do you give people out there that just had this inkling of, I wonder what government
Advice,
contracting is?
advice.
Like any words of wisdom, anything that you would offer a friend or somebody that came to you and asked you about it.
You know, a simple word. 2 words, right? It's possible, right? But that's 3 words. It's possible. Tell me, teacher, how many words is that?
Yeah,
Possible. It's
it's
not.
and
It's
and that
possible.
and that's why we did this podcast, other than the GovCon
Right.
giants of Eric, because Eric features these people that have been in this industry for so many years that are multi-million
Right.
contracts and things like that, and we wanted to show people that people like me, people like you, people that are in our community, regardless of where you came from, regardless if this is your first that you wanted to be entrepreneur since you were 5 years old, or that all of a sudden you had a career change or you had to pivot because of COVID. Like this is possible. All you have to do is put in the time
Right.
and actually have a goal in mind as well. Because I think that's very important. You came in with a goal and nothing was going to stop you from that goal. And instead of, I came in with a, you know what, this is a nice idea. This is a good thing. Like, this should be fun. No, if that's what, if this is a hobby for you, you are going to take 2 years, 3 years to try to figure it out. And you're still going to be like, maybe next fiscal year.
That's why I'm just a student, right? I'm a student of the game. Like, there's nothing special about me and my approach, right? I literally took some money, invested it, right? And even without the investment part of it, there was so much free content that I was able to go into the course, and the videos will come up in my head to say, all right, this is what he spoke about, right? So even before I made the purchase, I was already learning for free, right? So in that regards, when I really say that it's possible, it even if you didn't have the money to invest into the actual membership and the community part of it, you can really take something, from the videos and make something of yourself, right?
Yeah.
You really can.
Yeah, one of our podcast guests, the guy that's in Hawaii, he got it all from YouTube videos.
Right. Again, the system is working, right? Because this guy who just lives in Hawaii, right? Right. Think of this guy. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, right? I'm a city kid. This guy's in Hawaii on the island. We are 2 worlds apart, right? But we both ended up with the same thing: success, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
and his contracts are in, his contracts are in Florida and California. You are in where Florida probably, and your contracts are miles away. You're
right.
Like you're able to do this from wherever you grew up, and you could have contracts in the islands. And one of our girls is in Africa. Her contract is in Africa.
Right. So what's anyone's excuse, right? Like what's anyone's excuse on this at this point, right? Right? You have a computer, you have you have a computer, you have a phone. If you don't have a phone, you got a pen and paper, right? You have to, because I think, it's easy to make an excuse, right? It's so much easier to make an excuse than to just figure out a way to do it,
But I think it's a mentality thing. Yeah, it's a mentality thing. So when did you have this mentality that everything was possible? It had to come from somewhere.
But again, I agree with you. It had to come from somewhere. But think about it. Just me saying I want to apply myself now, right? I just wanted to apply myself, right? It just so happened that when I applied myself, I was successful because the result was a contract, right?
Mm-hmm.
I really was just trying to get to step 2, right? I was really just trying to get to step 2. That was really the short side of it, right? Right? Because the step 1 was I had someone agree to partner with me, right? That was the checkbox that I checked off. Step 2 was, okay, can we go out and see if it works, right? So at no point did I ever say, the mentality, it just let's just test it. Let's just see. Like if it works, it works, It just happened to work. No, it was a system that proved itself again.
Yeah, it was in luck. It was just you put everything in motion.
But what does somebody want to hear? Wow, she got really lucky.
You got really lucky. Like
right.
You just happened to be at the right time and had the right person. And that's what I'm saying. Like and like I said, yeah, she got the contract, but it's supposed to be September and it ended up in March. Like, where was the luck and all that? Like, you had to keep it going. You had to keep focused and things like that. So that's where I want people to hear that. It seems easy from an outsider, but once you're in it, you have to put in the time. You have to put in the dedication. You have to put in everything that you have. You have to have that goal always in sight in order for you to get there.
Right. So, I mean, I didn't spend an hour. I didn't want to waste your hour and say, look, I tried it. Or, like I'm being honest. Like I'm being tried. So in the transparency of it all, it's like I try to break it down and say, I'm just a person that watched a YouTube video. Right? All those things happen, but I just watched a YouTube video and it set me up, to these opportunities to say I'm a winner now, right?
There you go. And that is an awesome way to close it out, because I think that is the message that we want everyone to hear and repeat to themselves, that you just have to be there. You have to have your same mindset to be ordered to, like you, be a winner today. And this is just the beginning, by the way, guys. I'm sure like this is not her like, oh, I made it. Okay, let's move on. Like, because she took the small one, leveraged it to a bigger one. And I'm sure this one's going to continue snowballing. That snowball effect now is in order for you guys. So, see, and I love that. You feel that that's exciting. You're not, oh my God, what's that? You are excited, and we are very excited for you. We are very proud. We are very like, we wanted to feature your story because it's possible, and that's where this is all it coming from. Like, this is possible. So thank you very, very much, and I hope you inspire and motivate other people that this is possible.
Listen, I'm just a plain Jane, so anyone can do it. Believe me.
Alrighty.